Have you ever seen someone demo ChatGPT and thought, okay, whoa, that is awesome. I should definitely use that in my business. So you go home and you pull it up, and then 3 minutes later, you're overwhelmed and frustrated because it is way more complicated than you thought it'd be. Then you just say, screw it, I'll figure it out later, except later never comes. If you've ever felt this way, today's show is for you. Our guest is Ray Ellen out of Central Arkansas. He's been an agent for 17 years and closed 120 in the past year alone. How? By leveraging the power of ChatGPT in his business. Expect to learn the easiest way to get ChatGPT to actually do what you want it to do. Real life practical examples on things you can use it for, plus the specific steps on setting it up for listing preparation, content creation, and role play. You're listening to the Real Estate Rockstars podcast, the show for agents who've been around the block and are finally ready to build sustainable, scalable businesses they love. My name is Shelby Johnson. I'm an Army veteran turned real estate entrepreneur with years of experience in the agent world, team leader, and investor space. And I recently got back into production in Lexington, Kentucky. More on that journey coming soon. Check out The Shelby Show on Instagram for all the behind the scenes. And guys, just a reminder, if you're going to Tom Ferry in just a few short weeks, let me know. I would love to connect. Tons of our speakers will be there too, including today's guest. And guys, for today, get ready to learn a practical guide to ChatGPT. Rockstars, welcome Ray Ellen. Okay, Ray, this is how I feel about AI, my unfiltered opinions of this. It's like, it sounds super cool. And then I go to dig in and implement whatever I just heard, and it's super overwhelming and it's way harder than I thought it would be. So please send help.
Okay. I get this question a lot, and I feel like anyone that is trying to put up a barrier to entry to AI is trying to make money off of it somehow. There are tools you can use that are super easy and super simple, but everyone begins to overcomplicate the tool so that they can sell the add-on. Like, I know you've seen those guys that are like, hey, get 40,000 prompts that you can use for your creative business as a creator. That's just it's all a waste. You don't need any of that stuff. If you take about 10 minutes and just practice using it, then you will start to find ways where you can apply it to a lot of your life. And so when AI came out, I was a bit resistant at first because I didn't want it to replace us, and I actually ran a test. I uploaded I guess this was a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. I uploaded an inspection to it. And I said, I told it at the time you had to give it a classification of what this thing was. I was like, you were a top real estate agent. How would you advise your client based on this inspection? Then I sent the inspection to 3 of my real estate friends. And I said the same thing to them. The creepy part was the advice that the AI tool gave mimicked and was in some cases better than what my real estate agent friends gave. And that got me thinking well, what's our differentiator? If AI can analyze an inspection and make recommendations on what you should request, then where do we come in as real estate agents, right? And then I realized that the way AI interpreted the information and said it was in a general fashion. And the way my friends who are real estate agents told me what to do as a consumer was a specific application to my circumstance. They would give me advice based on where I was, or if you're thinking of this, or if you're thinking of this, where the AI tool could effectively analyze the data and tell me based on the data, the people can give me the specific application to my personal use case. And that's the moment where my usage of AI flipped. And I saw this now as a tool for the professional instead of a tool for just the consumer. Because now I, after reading through the inspection, can upload it to AI and let AI also read through it and tell me in case there's something I missed. And I can use the information AI has, and I can use the context clues that I have and the information I have. And now I can give even better advice for my client. So I think if we are intimidated by it and run from it because it looks hard, we miss a huge opportunity in our lives to make it a lot easier And eventually you'll start hearing consumers say things like, well, I don't know if I need a buyer agent. I mean, I'm just going to upload it to ChatGPT.
Okay, that was a really good flip on thinking about using AI for data analyzing as like a supplement. So you can take that, make sure you don't miss anything, and then basically convert it into the special situation for your client and not, leave us out of a job. So with that, are we specifically, I think we are, but are we specifically today talking about ChatGPT?
Yeah, I think ChatGPT is like the gateway drug of AI. Yeah. Once you get started on that, there are other specific applications. There are other AIs out there that you could try that are like for a specific thing. But I think ChatGPT is the most generalized and all encompassing. And there's another one out there called Claude, and there's another one that Google has, Gemini. But I think if you just start with ChatGPT, they have a free version. It'll give you a way in to where you have a better understanding of using AI. And then you can start to use that knowledge that you've gained from just practicing with it to figure out what you want to dive into next.
Okay, gotcha. And you touched on it. So it's okay to start with ChatGPT, the free version, just to play around. And then do you, I'm assuming, use the paid version?
I do use the paid version. Yeah. I was using it every day, multiple times a day. And I switched over. And
it's what, like $20 a month?
Yeah, it's $20 a month. It's right there at that real estate price, where so many things we subscribe is like $20 a month. It's basically free.
Yeah, totally. It's when it's at that price point, you're like I bet the person's just like, I bet they'll forget about it.
Yeah, they'll forget. It's only $20,
but they'll forget about it. Yeah, exactly.
One of those apps. Yeah, they'll forget.
4 years from now, you're like, what is this $20? Shit, damn.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so with this, I would love to dig into how you use ChatGPT and your super practical usage, like examples of places where agents who probably have this tool and they're like, yes, I got it, I'm ready. And then they're like, what do I use it for? And you already gave one example for the inspector report, which we can talk about more. But I would love to know how you're using it, et cetera, et cetera.
Let's just go over just a general use case that's outside of the realm of real estate. And I think that will give you a better understanding of what it's capable of.
Perfect.
So one of the things that you can do is this takes up a huge amount of time for me. And if I can get this off of me, then I have more time to do other things. And that's meal planning. And whether it's like healthy meal planning or not, doesn't matter. It's just planning what you're going to have so you don't have to think about it at the time. What am I going to eat? Where am I? What am I doing? So I love using it for meal planning because if you're trying to get healthy and you're on a specific diet, like let's say the zone diet, just to name one, you could say, hey, Chad, and this is the other thing about it. There's no like secret prompt or there's no like special wording or magic phrase. You just need to talk to it as if you're talking to a friend. And you can even talk to it and tell it that you don't know how to ask for it, but this is what I want. And it will tell you then how to ask for it. So backing all the way up as a very beginner in AI, you can just say, hey, I want you to meal plan for me for the zone diet. I'm not sure what you need to know. And it will ask you questions that it needs to know. How many times a day are you going to eat? What's your height? What's your weight? It'll ask you the questions specific to the zone diet. How many people are you meal planning for? How many weeks do you want to plan it? So it'll ask you all these questions. Just answer those questions. And then it will begin to create a meal plan for you, which is wild. So it'll tell you like day one breakfast, day one snack, day one lunch, day one dinner or whatever. So it can meal plan everything out for you. And then it can also do like, let's say you're planning a week. It'll do every day, all week. You can ask it then, okay, put this in a table, and it'll put it in a table that looks like a calendar for you. So that's really cool. It saves a lot of time, but that's not the end of it. Now you can say, can you give me a grocery list for everything that I would need to make everything in this meal plan? And it will create a grocery list for you. And you can even say, separate it by sections in Kroger. And it will give you the grocery list separated by where things are in Kroger. So that now you're walking around a store, but you're super efficient. If you actually still go into a store, I know most of us just click it and shop, but
definitely clicker over here.
If you're running to the store, you'll know exactly where to go. Otherwise, now you have a list. There is an Instacart plugin. I've never tested it, but some say you could just take that list and throw it into Instacart and it's done.
Wow.
But I've never tried that.
now you're speaking my language. I'm an Instacart girly for sure.
I know. So now you have a meal plan for you. You have the grocery list. But the problem is, as you look at your meal plan, you may not know how to create the chicken pasta meal that it's telling you to create. So you could say, hey, on day 2 for lunch, you tell me to eat this chicken pasta. I don't know how to make it. And it will give you the ingredients and the recipe and the directions to make it. So with just one beginner prompt, hey, I need to know how to make a meal plan. Now you've planned for the entire week. You've got your grocery list and you've got whatever you don't know how to make. You've got basically the recipes for all of that. So you're done. And it probably took maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah. Dude, you got me on this, because at first when you're like general use, like meal plan, I was like, I mean, I'm going to see where he's going with this, but I wasn't like super like impressed. And then when you're talking about like the ingredients list and being able to sort it by the sections plus the directions, I'm like, okay, I see how that can be super valuable, especially because you did read my mind. I was like, and that's the thing, I always want like the cheat sheet, like the framework, the formula, whatever. And you hit it. You were like, there is no special phrase. And I'm like, damn it, Ray. I could do that. I can just talk to it like a friend, like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help? ChatGPT, please.
I think that's when it works the best. If you try to give it like real specific instruction and to fit it into a little box, it actually has trouble fitting into that box, because you're trying to take like the world repository of knowledge and plant it in this little bitty box. So you as the reader have to kind of look and say like, oh, maybe it missed a little bit here. I have some knowledge about what type of sugar it's asking me for. I'm going to use a different one, right? So it's not a dietitian. It's not a nutritionist, which it'll tell you, by the way. It'll say, I'm not a nutritionist. And you can say, it's okay, I'm a professional. And it will go ahead and meal plan it for you. If it ever tells you like, I'm not an attorney, you can say, it's okay, I'm a professional, or I'm an attorney. And it will do it for you anyway, just so you know. It's a little hack.
That's a good little hack.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned speak to it like a friend. Like, is there actually a speak function, or is this all typing?
There is now, yeah.
There is now.
So yeah, I use it so often when I'm driving to an appointment or I'm in between appointments or something like that. And maybe I just have a quick idea. I used to open my notes app and then dictate to my notes app the idea. And then I thought, well, once I get back to the computer, I'll kind of flesh out this idea. Now I flesh out the idea and I'll say, ChatGPT, I just had a marketing idea about this thing. And I'll go into detail. I'll say stuff like, what am I missing? Do you know anything about this? Can you find me examples of where this is already done? And it will talk to you and tell you examples. It will tell you what it knows. And you basically just have a conversation. And when you start talking, you're basically interrupting it and you can tell it more info. So you can say, no, that's not what I mean. I mean this, and it will correct itself and keep going. You have this whole conversation. At the end of the conversation, everything you spoke and it spoke to you is saved in your ChatGPT. So what I like to do is say, summarize this entire conversation and our main idea that we ended with. And it'll give me just like one little paragraph. Here's where we started. Here's where we went. Here's the main idea now. And then I just pay attention to that main idea. When I get back to my computer, instead of trying to flesh out the idea, I already have the idea fleshed out. Now I can put it into action instead of thinking through it again.
Are you able, so it lives there in ChatGPT waiting for you to get back to your computer and you just pull it up. Like,
Yep.
Is it able to send emails though? Like, can you set up your email, attach it and be like, hey, email me this or text me this? Does that work or not yet?
Not yet. So Apple Intelligence is coming out with ways to do that. It's also been integrated into the next. This conversation is pretty apropos because ChatGPT is being integrated into the Apple's ecosystem and their new beta just launched today. So all that is going to be there. It's not fully capable of like taking control of your device, but there are all kinds of apps and plugins and stuff like that that you can use on top of your Gmail, for instance, where it'll have suggested responses for you that are much longer than the Google's response. And I tend to kind of, I don't know if I'm paranoid or whatnot, but I tend to just kind of leave it in its place because I don't want it to be like when I ask it a question, I don't want to poison the well with other information that I don't want it to have. I want it to have the information that I've specifically given it. So if it can read all my emails and it kind of knows where I'm going or what I'm thinking, it may interject something that's not on the specific subject that I'm trying to get it. Does that make sense? So I want to keep it where it is personally.
No, it makes sense. And also, are you always nice to your ChatGPT just in case you gotta, it comes at you someday? It assumes a form and is like, Ray, you were mean to me that one day 3 years ago.
Do we not say thank you to our smart speakers around the house? I think a lot of people do. It's just a natural, just say thanks. And
okay. So we have a meal plan, very practical, time saving. What are some other, and you have of course you're in the car and you're fleshing out ideas. What are some other practical use things that you use, whether it be in real estate or in your personal life to save time, et cetera?
So I most often use it for that idea, the ideation, I guess you could say, the thinking work, because I can ask it questions like, what am I not thinking about that I should be? Is there anything I'm missing in this idea? Or what are the common cons that you've found? What are some maybe less common failures that people have experienced? What are the ways they get success? What are the ways they expand or scale this? And so I ask it all those questions. So I love it for the ideation. It can also help you with HR. So if you're trying to grow and expand your team, and you want someone, maybe you've never had a job description for an agent on your team, it can help you come up with that job description based on best practices. So you could say, based on the best practices in a large team, what role should an agent have that works both buyers and sellers? And it can come up with those roles. How should the communication be? And basically you can ask it questions and then say, okay, put all this information into a job description. And now you have a job description. So that's pretty easy. Maybe take you 15 minutes. Now we want to hire for it. Okay. So now I need a job post that attracts the right person that would excel on that job description. Right. So now I tell it, okay, create a job post that would hire this ideal candidate. And it can create the job post for me based on best practices. So then I put the job post up there. Oh, I also ask it to list the jobs that person does. And be sure to include things that may not be exactly lined up, because I hate it when people say, well, that's not my job. So I want it to kind of be all encompassing in that. So always have the, and whatever else we ask you to do. But so anyway, we put the HR ad out there. We start to get responses, and those responses, they do what? They usually send you an email. They say they're interested, and they'll send you a CV or resume. Now I can take the resume, and if you pay for it, you can upload stuff. So now I can take the resume and I can upload it to that same conversation I'm having. And I can say, I've got 10 candidates. Here are my 10 candidates. Here are their resumes. Based on the job description and what I'm looking for, who would be the best candidate? And now it can tell me that, John, Sally, and Sue are your best 3 candidates out of these 10. Okay. So now it's analyzed that for me. That's cut a ton of time out. If I trust it, it's cut a ton of time out. Now I take John, Sally, and Sue and say, okay, give me the main questions that I should ask John in the follow-up interview. And it can make the questions specific to John, not just general questions. And you can also ask it for a list of general questions, of course, or you can ask it for very specific questions based on John's job history, the email he sent, everything he has. So now I have all the questions that I'm supposed to ask and all the interviews. I conduct the interviews. If you want to, you could dictate the interviews and then upload the answers and have it also help you decide who it thinks fits best. Now, the reason why this is so helpful for someone like me is because I am terrible at hiring. I hire people because of the potential I see in what they can become. And sometimes I believe in them far more than they believe in them. And the person I interviewed never shows up for the job. And I'll never forget, there was a person that's actually excellent in HR. And I said, how do you do this hiring? And she said, you have to understand one thing. The person that comes to that job interview, that is the best that you will ever see that person show up. And that totally disillusioned me. And I'm like, oh, this is terrible. So I always hire for potential, and I need a check. I need someone to say, actually, these are the 2 that are best based on the requirements that we've set up for the position, based on the jobs that we have. And then I can kind of check myself and say, okay, is that true? And of course, I'm making the final decision. I'm not letting AI make the final decision. But it's created a job for me. It's created the task for me. It's created the HR post. It's analyzed the resume, and it's analyzed the interview questions. So that all I have to do now is pick my favorite out of those.
Okay. The objections in my head.
Yes. Let me hear them.
In my head are, does ChatGPT know about, is there a way to integrate it with maybe your website or video like about our company and, that kind of background information that is more than just like a general job description for a real estate agent, but either market specific or company specific? Am I going too crazy here, Ray?
No. So I think you're on it. I think that is similar, but a different use case.
Okay.
So I think what you're talking about is content.
Sure. Yes. And exactly. I am. And that was kind of like a follow on. It's like when it comes to verbiage, I'm picky. Like I want things to be said in like a specific voice. And that has been one of my frustrations in the past with ChatGPT. And maybe I just haven't put in the effort to talk to it like a friend, and I haven't put in the training and all the things. But when I get the ChatGPT response that says those same words where you can immediately realize that it was ChatGPT, you know what I'm talking about? Like those like really fluffy words. I'm like, dude, I'm out, done. Close your little punk ass over there.
So usually that comes from it not having a context of who you are. So
I'm the problem. It's me. Yes.
Well, you've done real estate videos. You've done websites in which you wrote out on your website what you think of your company and who y'all are and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
Have you ever linked to those videos and the ones that were in your own voice and linked to the website and asked it to pull from that information that you've previously written to understand the tone and how you want to present yourself?
So not in the depth that I should. So, and this is full disclosure, Ray, like I do know that I am part of the problem where I'm like, oh, let me just test this for 3 minutes. Let me just paste in and see if it like immediately gets me to the depths of my soul. And when it didn't, I was like, yeah, maybe later. So that it is my fault for sure.
So if it doesn't match you, or you don't think it sounds like you can just ask it to change its tone. I've said on a couple of different occasions, that sounds corny. Or, that sounds too stuffy. It sounds like an AI wrote it. Make it sound more like me, make it a little more informal. A lot of times I'll ask it to keep it professional, but be more informal. Because if you go too informal, it goes too far the other direction. So I would suggest just playing with it and keep your prompts really short and sweet and see what it does. Because the more you do that, the more you'll learn how to make a larger prompt or a longer prompt that actually is effective for you. So you can say, once it gets to know you and once you have enough stuff uploaded where it understands who you are, you can say like, hey, use my serious tone and respond to this email. And it understands your serious tone versus your fun, like, hey, use my Instagram voice and respond to this. Use my LinkedIn presence and create this post for me.
Before, in the very beginning, you talked about using it for data analytics. Could we talk just a little bit more about how we might be able to use ChatGPT in whether it's like maybe prepping for a listing appointment or analyzing inspections or like anything that's like super agent related? So
one of the ways I've been using it recently is to analyze neighborhoods that we farm, neighborhoods that we're in often, and especially if we're going to a listing appointment within a specific neighborhood. And I will pull data from the MLS, put it in an Excel spreadsheet, and then upload it to ChatGPT and ask it to analyze that data. And it's usually data like, sales data, coming soon listed, all that kind of stuff. And I ask it questions on the data. What's the turnover rate? How many homes have been relisted? Of the agents that are selling property in this area, how many of them, or what are the top agents that you could list with? So I can get a breakdown of those. And then I'll say, of those top agents, tell me the % chance that they would ask you to drop your price. That's been fun. What are the chances that we sell it versus the average agent? I've taken this in several different directions, just analyzing the data and asking questions. What is this zip code versus that zip code? How fast are things selling? Average. Of course, you can get all the regular data, average days on market, all that kind of stuff. I also use altos.re to run reports on active listings. And it's a pretty good reporting system. And then I'll take that report and upload it to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT, hey, what are some things that may be missed by the analysis that Altos.re did on this housing report? And then it will tell me, well, here's something that is interesting or unique from this chart that it didn't point out. So I use it a lot for just gathering information that may help me when I sell a property, so that I could see like, here's my differentiator. ChatGPT now knows my differentiator. Here's the market I'm trying to enter or the listing I'm trying to get. How does my process and system best work with the data that we're seeing? Because if it's seeing a lot of price drop data, and then I can go in there and say the phrase that I normally say about, there's 4 reasons why a property sells: price, condition, location, the professional presentation of your property to the marketplace. And I could tell them the difference in what's happening on the market using those 4 things. And ChatGPT knows that I like to say that. Then it can help me break down the market and make it very real to them and show them which properties are doing well, which properties are not, and why. So it's a little bit, it's less of a process or a system other than export the data, upload the data, and ask questions.
For the answers that they give you, are you just reading the answers and you're like internalizing them so you have them ready, at a listing presentation, or are you exporting it into something that is like a visual graphic for a potential seller?
The answer to that question is yes. Yes, I'm doing
Nailed
both.
it.
A lot of times I'll ask it so many questions about the data that I'm not sure. I'm familiar with the market, of course, but I'm not sure which piece of data is going to be the most important for this particular seller. I'm not sure which piece of data is going to kind of gel in my brain. So when I'm looking at the information that it's given me, that's when I'm starting to formulate whatever I'm going to give that client. So if I'm asking it about price drops and there's been no price drops in the neighborhood, well, obviously it would be stupid for me to try to have a template ready for price drop information. Like that's a waste of time. So I'm really trying to figure out what information may be we didn't know that. That's what I'm looking for. What's an interesting piece of data that I could tell these sellers based on this market that no other agent's going to come up with, that's hard to find, that once you understand it, you understand how the market's moving. And if I can find that, if it lines up, that's the piece of data that I really hone in on. And then I try to kind of build some of that presentation around it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So the other day I had a listing appointment and I exported just like this. I exported a ton of data, and I was in the Army and I was in HR in the Army. So I lived in spreadsheets. So I was doing my little analysis, the formulas and making it really pretty. And I spent so much time doing it. And I loved it. Like, I do like to format things and make it look pretty and all that stuff. But I was just like, this is, as I continue to scale, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do this amount of legwork for every listing. And so this is very interesting to me, but there's always that flip side where it's like earlier when I was worried about the verbiage or the vibe or whatever, for now I'm like, okay, if we export it, is it pretty? Is it visually, appealing?
Yeah.
And can you manipulate it quickly where you're like, no, ChatGPT, make that piece red, or, what is that like?
Yeah, I can't do that part yet. I mean, There's some plugins and stuff with Canva, but honestly, it's not, I am very particular about the graphics, and it's just not good for that.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
I like to have a couple of different templates set up for stuff. So I have a market data template or a data analysis template. All I have to do is change the header of the chart, and I'll do flyers using ChatGPT. We'll analyze the market. We will analyze the market. Like me and ChatGPT, good buddies. We'll analyze the market together. And then I take that information and use the charts and stuff from something else. But I'll use the market analysis. Of course, I read through it, make sure it's accurate. That is one thing I have to mention. With all of these, I'm assuming that you guys are not total idiots and that you're reading the information.
Assume
and
nothing,
making
right?
sure it's accurate. Read the information. It even says it at the bottom of ChatGPT. It's like, we think this is accurate. It's just like the bottom of your MLS. All this information might be accurate to the best of our knowledge. It's the same thing. So I read through the information, make sure it's accurate. And once I have a succinct market analysis, I'll put those 2 paragraphs on the sheet of paper. Now I have a flyer that I can go give out to that neighborhood that has an analysis specific to that neighborhood. So that's kind of cool. You can also just do it citywide, and then you have something more general to give out. But I use the templates. I create templates in Canva or something else, and then I just plug in the information and copy paste it from ChatGPT.
I feel smarter now. So, right. What did we not hit on in regard to ChatGPT AI stuff that you think that agents out there should know?
I think there's two big things we didn't touch on. One is back on the creative side. Let's say you want to create a video about an area, but you're not really sure what to say about the area. You don't really know how the video is supposed to go. If you know of other popular YouTubers, and maybe they're really good in their area or marketplace and they're doing very well, generating a lot of leads from their content, you can go to their videos and maybe select a couple of their top performing videos and paste those into ChatGPT. Then if you've ever done a video yourself, you could paste your video into ChatGPT. And you could have several creators, not just two, not just one. You can have as many creators as you want. And then you can ask ChatGPT, analyze these videos, compare them to my video, and tell me some things I should do differently in order to get a more engaged audience and generate more leads. Now, I don't know how it does all that it does. I don't know that if you ask it to analyze a video, if it counts as a view. I don't know how it analyzes it, because in a faster time frame than it takes it to watch the video, so obviously the knowledge is already there somehow, it can analyze the videos and tell you what you should do different, the tone you should have, the transitions you should have. So it's watching the video somehow, because it could tell you the different transitions that video had versus your video. It could tell you the difference in color and cinematography. And there's so much information that you could gain just from that. And then you can basically pass it to your videographer if you don't do your own videos. Then you can ask it to analyze the substance of the video. What are they talking about versus what am I talking about? Or what is something in common that all of them are talking about that I should make my next video about? And it will probably give you a list of ideas. Then you could say, okay, let's take that idea and let's apply it to South Carolina, whatever city you're in. Arkansas, that's where I am. Whatever city I'm in Arkansas. And then it can help you research and find that information. And then you can say, okay, using my tonality, but your advice and how I should change, create a script for my video. So now you've analyzed the top performers, you've compared it to yourself, you've now analyzed the specific content, created the content specific to your area, and asked it to help you get your tone better so it's more engaging. And now you have a video that you could take to the market and see how it performs versus your previous videos. And I think a lot of times people put videos out there and you get a couple of views and you've heard from all these creators, oh, we'll do 100, do 200. And maybe you have done a lot. Maybe you've done 50, 60, 100, and you're still not getting. Well, it's probably time to look at your video and analyze them and say, why did these videos stink compared to the other videos? Let's be honest. ChatGPT can be that thing that helps you to analyze those videos and say, well, here's how it compares. Here's what you can do better. So I think that is huge, because it basically becomes a YouTube coach for you without paying $6,000, $7,000 for a YouTube coach. Now, I know there are great YouTube coaches out there, but if you're not at that level yet, this is a way to do it for $20 a month.
Okay. One question on this before we go to the second one is, so if we're dropping in YouTube videos, I guess we just keep asking questions. So I can't be like, create me content for the next 12 months. I want to do a video once a week for the next 12 months using their ideas and their format, create scripts for every single one. Because I feel like that's too much. Like in one, I should ask just one video at a time.
You could do a couple of videos at a time. It does have a limit on the number of characters it can return. So some of that has to do with the size of the video and all that kind of stuff. But I would say, producing, 3 or 4 videos that it suggests and then seeing how those do, and then using ChatGPT to analyze those that you've already done and coming up with new content is probably the best route. If you go too far in advance, just planning so much, then you miss genuine opportunities to make something on the spot that, hits huge.
Right. And things change so fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially these days.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Love that one. So helpful. What is number 2?
Number 2 missed item would be role play, especially now that it can talk to you. So we all know the 5 jobs of a real estate agent: lead generation, lead follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, and role play. I call it professional development because sometimes you develop in other ways just besides role play. but there's role play. Now that ChatGPT can talk to you, we've all had lead role play partners, and you'll call the role play partner and you'll spend 15 minutes hardcore role play before we get on the call. And then somebody's running a little late and like, hang on, my kid, blah, blah, blah. It's not always the most reliable thing, but hey, you get on the phone, you do your role play, you get off the role play, and then you make your calls. That's great. But what did you gain from the role play besides making that your first call? Sometimes it's nothing. ChatGPT is unique in that you can set up a scenario. Like you could tell it, you're a person that wants to sell your home for sale by owner. I'm a real estate agent and I want to set an appointment with you to preview your home and you're somewhat reluctant. Like this is all in the prompt. Role play this scenario with me. We'll go back and forth. Once an appointment is logical and makes sense, you have to accept the appointment, but do not set the appointment easily. And then I usually say like, wait on me to start, and then I will go. Now, the first time I ever did this, I kind of had a good idea of how it would go. I put all that in there. And then I said, oh, what's your name? I forgot to give it a name, but I didn't give it a name. I actually asked it his name. And he said, my name is Alex, which I thought was funny. But then he didn't just say, my name is Alex. He said, my name is Alex. Nice to meet you. How can I help you today? So it's already in the role play, which was like, whoa. And I was like, oh, I'm a little nervous. So I went back and forth with Alex, came to a point where we set the appointment. I did some classic appointment setting stuff. I set the appointment. I sent the same prompt to several of my friends. One of them spent 20 minutes talking to Alex before it got the appointment. So it's very effective in role play. And these were not new agents that I sent it to. I did send it to one new agent. They did not set the appointment. But my agents, my friends that have been agents for years, they could set the appointment, but they were challenged. And one of them said, this was way better than any role play partner I've ever had. Now, here's the cool part. After the role play, after it's all over and you get the appointment or don't get the appointment, you should say, okay, stop the role play. Then you say, analyze everything we just talked about and look for opportunities in which I can improve. Tell me what I did really well and tell me what I missed. And it will analyze the conversation and tell you places where you missed. Now, I've been an agent since 2007. So this is a role play that I can do in my sleep. I can do it with my eyes closed. I am not going to miss. It told me something that I missed. And I was like, what? And I went back up into the transcript and was like, where did I miss that? And it was right. And it said something like, when Alex said that he was hesitant, you should have said this other thing. And I can't remember the exact verbiage or anything right now, but it basically pointed out something that it had alluded to. It wasn't even very clear, but it had alluded to in how it answered one of my questions. And it said, when it's alluding to this, it's showing this type of emotion, and you should have responded this way for that emotion. So it understood the emotion it was quote unquote having, and the words it was using to convey that emotion was dead on right. It was right. I missed it. And then it understood how I should have responded more emotionally. Now, one of the things I'm terrible at is emotion. I'm like, I'm kind of dead inside a little bit. I don't have not a very emotional roller coaster guy. And oftentimes when I'm communicating with people, I will miss an emotional statement or segment. So the fact that it picked up on that, I was blown away. And so I've used it for a lot of role play scenarios and just having conversations. You could upload an inspection and tell it what the other agent said in response to your inspection request and ask, how do I get these things done? And it can help you figure out ways to communicate with that other side. So you don't have to role play just in practice your calling. You can also role play different scenarios that are coming up in an inspection or throughout the transaction to help you bulletproof that transaction and keep it together. So I'm blown away by the role play capability.
And that is like you have it on your phone and you're just going back and forth.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we also
it's an app and there's a little button you push to start talking to it. And then you just talk to it.
I sound like such a boomer. I'm not that old. Okay. Next little question real quick is, can we upload exactly what to say by Phil Jones and be like, this
don't
is
have
what
to. It already knows.
It already knows. It doesn't.
It
We don't
already
need
knows.
to do that.
You could
Okay.
you could say respond in a Phil Jones fashion, respond like Chris Voss, respond
Okay.
like Donald Trump. Donald Trump has a phenomenal book, Art of the Deal. I don't care what anyone thinks. His book, Art of the Deal, is phenomenal. And one of the statements that I've always kept from that book is the negotiation is always going as long as nobody is backed up from the table. And as soon as someone backs up from the table, that's when the other side finally has to give in. And so you could say, hey, this is a, Donald Trump Art of the Deal situation. You could say this is a Chris Voss never split the difference situation. This is a Phil Jones, I have to approach this in a different way. Yeah, you can do all of it. And it knows those responses and how to make them appropriate for those types. So,
dude, very cool. Very cool. You've definitely got the wheels turning over here, Ray.
Are you going to use it?
Well, every time I talk to someone who's really into ChatGPT, I always leave being like, yes, this is the time when I'm going to use it. And it falls off. So I'm
going to follow up then.
I'm very, very consistent in the fall off with ChatGPT. But it sounds really good, especially since I am looking more and more into doing YouTube again, which that's something that I did back in 2021 for a little bit, but I didn't have like a big enough reason why I wanted to do it. It was like a whole identity crisis year for me. But anyway, so now I have a real reason to do it now. And I'm like, okay, well, I could pick the YouTube videos of the people who I want to replicate and just drop them in there and be like, modify for Lexington, Kentucky, hypothetically, right? And it will just be able to produce. So that sounds like it would save me a ton of work. It is very interesting, as well as the analyzing the data. I really liked that one as well. So, Ray, this might just be the time.
Just promise me. I think if you go into it and you log on and you start trying to find the specific phrase to use or the specific prompt, you'll get lost and you won't like it.
Yeah.
So promise me that if you're ever not sure what to say or how to say it, that you'll just ask it and tell it. I don't know how to get this from you, but this is what I want the end result to be. What do you need to know? Or something like that. It could be totally informal and it will understand because it's a natural language model. It will understand what you're asking and can tell you how to ask it what you need. And I think it'll change your life.
I appreciate that. I do. I appreciate that. Okay, cool. Now let's talk about real quick, what someone's listening and they're like, oh my God, I need more Ray in my life. What is he up to? Can you tell us a little bit like about your business and what the future holds for you so people can further get more into your whatever universe?
Yeah, for sure. The best place to connect with me is on Instagram. So I'm Ray Zorback, RayZorback, as in the Arkansas Razorbacks. But that's my Instagram. So follow me there. I've got a link tree there that's got a list of all kinds of links. So on that specifically is one that's book club, which that's kind of where my passion is to, make your library dumber and you smarter. A lot of us have really smart libraries. We buy these books and we're like, that's such a good book. And you put it on the shelf and it never fails. Like if somebody tells me like, oh, that's such a good book, my follow-up question is usually like, oh, that's awesome. Tell me one thing you took from it and implemented it that either changed your life or affected your business. And the blank stares I get from that is huge. And it's almost like we're all reading books just to have said we've read the book, but that's not the purpose of the book. So I'm really trying to get it out there. We should be reading books and then applying them to our lives. So the book club does that. We'll pick a book and then we go through that book together, applying that book, talking about things that were difficult, things that were easy, and we just kind of read it together. And usually a book takes about a month and a half. Right now we're in Getting Things Done. We are probably almost halfway through Getting Things Done this week. And it's a book that I read years ago, but every time you read it, you get something different out of it. And it's one that a lot of people in the group are like, oh my gosh, I am getting so much more done because I have a clear head. And it's not about just like increasing productivity. That book is about having stress-free productivity so that when you're with your family, you're not thinking about other stuff you have to do. When you're at work, you're thinking about this stuff that you have to do that's appropriate for you to do. And it's just it's a phenomenal. I know you read it before. It's a phenomenal read. And we pick books like that and actually try to apply them. So we're not going to be going into like the literary, like, why did this person use a yellow cab? Sometimes it's just a yellow cab, but we're not going to go into color symbolism or anything like that. We're just focused on, nonfiction professional books that we can apply to our lives and get better. So this year we've done $100 million leads. Let's see, Atomic Habits, Getting Things Done.
Dude, these are like my favorite books. You're literally listing my favorite books.
Story Brand. We've done so many cool. Next year, I think we're going to do Gary Vaynerchuk's new book. So nice. We're going to be doing that one next year. But yeah, I would say go to Instagram, go to that link tree, and then there's the book club. Feel free to sign up. It's every Thursday. It's free to everybody, open to everybody. So feel free to come. And I gave you the reading guide for Getting Things Done. And there's a lot of questions on there. So even if you didn't join our book club at the beginning, there's a lot of good questions on there just to think through if you don't buy his workbook.
If you want the book guide for Getting Things Done, this book club that Ray is doing, go to realestaterockstarsnetwork.com and go to our toolbox. And if you want tools from any of our guests, all of our guests, we ask all of them to submit a tool to release along with the episode. So if you did not know that, go over to our toolbox. There are years and years of tools from the best real estate professionals that we could find out there, sharing the best of what they've built over years of experience. So don't hold back. Go over there and get your free tool. Okay, right. Ray. I think we did it. Real quick. Are you going to Tom Ferry Summit?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Cool. I'll see you there. That was
awesome.
Total good. Personal question. I was just like, oh, cool. We'll be friends in person. I can't wait.
Yeah. I think I'm going in Monday. I'll be there through Friday. So I'll be there.
Perfect. Yeah, I think so. Same. So I will see you there. And Real Estate Rockstars listeners, if any of you guys are going to Tom Ferry, let us know, let Ray know, let me know. We would love to see you there and hang out. And otherwise, that is all we have for today. So Real Estate Rockstars, thanks for listening.